Hello everyone, my name is Mikael Stefuka, and together with Stefan, we will bring you up to speed in today's webinar in terms of what's new in automation and customization in version 2023. Let me start with a brief overview of the agenda that we prepared for you today. We'll start with the impact of panel removal on the APIs, and then go over, mention a few words about the new TCL console, and then I will hand it over to Stefan, who will cover the extensions and the HWC updates. Without wasting any time, let me go straight into the first topic. You might have heard from other sessions and other webinars that in version 2023, the new HyperMesh experience, the application has gone through significant architectural change. Until this version, so until 2022.3, the application was running as two processes. And from 2023 onwards, new HyperMesh is a single process application. This has obviously huge implications and benefits in terms of performance, but it was also a necessary step in order to provide a full-fledged Python API in the near future. What this required us to do as well is remove the panels. So few words about that impact on the APIs now. Okay, so single process, no panels, which means no panel commands. So all the panel commands that you are familiar with in HyperMesh, I listed a few on this slide as a sample, they will not work anymore. So in version 2023, they will not be recognized. You will see an invalid command error if you try to run them. This means that any of your customizations or scripts in general, if you were calling a panel command, it needs to be replaced by a context command. So in other words, if your script was working with panels, was directing the user to a specific panel, now you need to direct them to a context. This can be done through context APIs. Of their nature, they work mostly on the active context, so they're not suitable for pre-configuring your contexts. So, using maybe the traditional approach of HM custom.tcl file, which gets executed upon launching the application. So these commands are suited for work only with the active one. For the purpose of customizing context and ribbons and pre-configuring things, we have a separate project running that should reach the release soon. Okay. Now, talking about the context commands, they are fully documented, have been released few versions back. So if you grab these slides, you will get the hyperlink to the documentation and you can follow it. As I mentioned, these commands, this API allows you to work with the active context. So you can essentially mimic what the user does through mouse clicks. And you can also embed your custom context in extensions using these APIs. On this slide, what we see is the list of 4 main commands essentially, and then they've got each several different methods they offer. But essentially, it's a CTX, then CTX manager, selection, and the UI command. The very basic step, or let's say workflow, that you could follow with panels in the past was simply in a script you could have offered to enter a panel for the user, right? So your automation could have entered the panel for the user, and then the user performed certain operations. So in the past, you would use the HM push panel command and then followed by the name of the panel. Now, today, as I said, you need to enter a context. So this is how the command looks. You'll use the CTX manager, enter, and the name of the context. So you might ask, how do I actually work with this? How do I get the name of the context? Very quickly, let me just guide you through these steps because it might be handy. So first of all, you need to enter the context you want to make part of your script. Once you are inside the context, once the context is active, you can run the CTX UI print command, which will print out the XML DOM definition of your context, so you can see all the information about this context, which is also handy for customization in general and understanding how you can then create your own context. The important point here is that at the top of here we can see the tag, and that is the name of your context. Okay, this is the name that you can then take and use it to refer to this context and use the CTX manager enter command to enter this context as part of your scripted solution. A few words about TCL APIs in general in HyperMesh. If you wish, we recommend users to keep a close eye on anything related to GUI customization, panels, tabs, etc. As Stefan will present shortly, the ultimate entry point for customization and GUI customization are extensions. So we are slowly phasing out existing solutions. They're still supported, but in not so distant future, phasing them out in and bring Python APIs. Okay. So that means that certain things are going to be phased out, but there are specific commands that we seamlessly ported to the new HyperMesh experience. And just to give you a sample of them, it's create mark panel command, HM get direction panel, or HM get float. So all of these stay exactly as they are, and they just perform in the new interface way, if you wish. One thing to mention as well, HWTK commands, the GUI sort of toolkit remains supported, but again, we will be phasing it out in favor of Python API very soon. For those of you who deal with a lot of different scripts or have, are working with the big sort of database of scripts or custom solutions, and are sort of curious about how many commands related panels are inside these scripts, we have a utility in the installation called the script parser. It's a TCL-based tool that we've been packaging since version 2022.2. This is where you will find it in the installation, HW desktop utility and script parser. You run it as any other TCL script, and then it allows you to parse either specific files or folders. It scans through your TCL files, identifies the HyperMesh, HyperView, HyperGraph APIs that are used, and provides a report. And this is really handy for the purpose of identifying any commands that might not work anymore in 2023, such as the panel commands, but also we flag out deprecated commands. So those are the commands that remain in the code. They are still working, but we are not officially working on that code anymore, and they have been replaced by either a new workflow or a new version of the command. Specifically for deprecated commands, we also try to highlight the new command that can be used instead. And you should see it in the report in the green font. Last word here about API Programmer's Guide. So all these changes that you'll be facing in version 2023 and new features, they are documented in the Programmer's Guide. And yeah, I recommend going through it. You will find a bit more details about what I have just been through, and you can always refer to the details there. Now, before moving over to the other topics with Stefan, let me say a few words about the new TCL console that you will see in version 2023. What we've done is we replaced the TK console with a new TCL command window. This command window is common across all our applications that are using the same user interface. For those of you who used Compose before, this is the console that you'll be familiar with. Essentially, it is different sort of UI feature, but in terms of functionalities, everything should be covered. You will see differences in terms of right-click menu, the context menu, but ultimately it's accessing the same TCL interpreter. Certain things are different. So TK console was sort of closely related to the language itself, and you can interact with her through the actual TCL commands. That's not available anymore. But on the other hand, what you can do very easily, instead of using a command to, let's say, change the size of the font, you can simply use a control key with a combination of scroll wheel on the mouse, okay, to zoom in essentially and increase the font size. Well, the development team, together with Stefan on the PM side, have worked really hard, and a big shout out to them for this is keep IntelliSense for us. So this is something extremely popular with the users of our post clients. So HyperView, HyperGraph, as you can see, same functionality, but slightly new feel, okay, different feel in the new console. But all the tools are there for the user, so nothing to worry about. Okay, and with this, I will pass it over to Stefan, who will introduce the extensions and the novelties there, and also what's new on the HWC. Stefan, over to you.
Okay, let's start with extensions. My name is Stefan Eberhardt, and I'll show you the news here about extensions and HWC in 2023. So for extensions, let's start with a quick overview, because in 2023, this is the first release with only the new GUI experience, and extensions are the way to customize this experience. We start with this overview. So first, extensions are programs integrated in HyperWorks to enhance your user experience. They are available since 2021.1. And they are available in all the Unity-based applications like Desktop, Inspire, or the new HyperMesh experience. So the extensions manager can be found under the drop-down menu under File, Extension Manager. So quick about the release history. Extensions were introduced in 2021.1 with the first release, and they supported only HyperMesh. In 2022.1, the new Extension Manager GUI was introduced, multi-clients and toolbars. In 22.2, custom file menus and the enhanced unloading so that the entries really disappear. And in 2023, we have introduced the automatic registration via the environment variable HWX plugins. And there are some FAQs about the migration to the new interface. Can I create custom pull downs? Yes, use extensions. Can I create custom toolbars? Again, use extensions. And also, is it possible for to create custom ribbons and icons? Again, use extensions. Please be aware, these are not defined via API. It's completely XML script based. Okay, if you have more questions about what's in the documentation, you can also go to Altair Exchange and search for extensions. There's a lot of stuff out there, and you can get a good overview how customers use extensions and exchange your knowledge. So with the 2023 updates, with the supported profile names, product names like HyperMesh, HyperView, HyperGraph are supported. They can be used in the profile section of the core extension XML. Sub-profiles can also be used like OptiStruct, radius, line chart, and bar charts. If you use these, then your entry access points will only be displayed when this sub-profile is active. The complete help for this can be found in the reference guide under extensions, extension XML, in the profile section. Auto loading. So auto loading is now introduced via the extensed entry in the root extension XML file. Extensions registered with an environment variable HWX plugins are auto-loaded. Here is an example. I have my environment variable HWX plugins. I have two directories added to this environment variable. The first one, as you see, has 5 extensions, and each of these extensions have the extensed key entry in it and will be auto-loaded. The other one is a single extensions which will not be loaded. And if you can see, if I start my application, all the entries are show up. And for these 5 extensions which have this extensed entry in their extension XML file, please be aware that these extensions cannot be removed or unloaded when they are loaded with this auto loading via HWX plugins. To delete these extensions, you have to go to your environment variable, remove the passes you don't want to see, and restart your application. Then these extensions will be gone. Let's go to the handling of the empty profiles. If you want to show the extension loaded in the extension manager, you have to add the profile in the core extension XML file. So even if you have no content, I mean ribbons, toolbars, menus, init scripts, etc. So each of these profiles need to have a section, a profile section in the core XML file. For now, every empty profile needs to have at least one entry. So let's look at this example. So you have only hypergraph functionality loaded, but you want to that also in HyperView and HyperMesh. You want that if you open the extension manager with this clients active, that you want to see the load button on, you have to add these profiles and have to at least one dummy entry in this section. The dummy entry will not be used in future versions. Okay, let's move on to the HWC language. In 2023, we introduced parts. These are now supported in record and playback. So for example, if you do show and hide, you will record the ID range. You can also use name lists here using intelligence, creating it easily. And if you want to do a little bit more, you can use the mark part, the mark, and this allows advanced customization. So the mark will never be used, never be cleared, even if you use it multiple times. And so it can be used for multiple commands, and you can also have features like, for example, dictionary range. This is when I mark part. You select the first and the last, and then if you have sorted, for example, in your browser, your parts dictionary-wise, everything between will be loaded. I will show here a quick demo. So we have here a script. So with this, we load the model and result with HWC. We configure the image output. The config file allows for a lot of commands to define the defaults. That later the commands are very simple. Here I define the resolution. Now we go to the dictionary range. And then if we go further, we contour only these marked parts here. We do it 2 times for plastic strain and stress. And then we export the images in the configured resolution. So if I let the script run, you will see it quickly does exactly what it should do. And then when we look into the files which were exported, you will see that also the properties of the file match exactly what you want to see. Let's go to HWC and core TCL. We introduced a new, according to custom requests, a new option to have the last restored view. So when we are in a session and we have created a view or loaded a view and we activate it and we do more stuff and we want to jump back, you can easily do it in the script or via the command line and jump back to this view. Please be aware that this command is for usage in script and not recorded. In addition, we also have the equivalent in the core TCL API. Here it's on the view handle, you get the last restored view. And yeah, you can get the name and then use the view handle again to restore it. Let's finish the official part. Thanks a lot of your participation.